To Generation Cowboys and Sports Talks. I'm the host, DJ I Tell You What, aka Cowboy Jules, and I have my dad, the co-host, Cowboy Joe, aka Capricorn One.
I am your father. Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
And we are a father and son podcast. And just like Darth Vader said, we're trying to rule the galaxy as far as Cowboy Nation goes on this podcast thing. And welcome back to our show. It's episode 24. You want to say something to the folks out there?
So welcome back to our broadcast, and shout out to James Earl Jones, the great James Earl Jones. We lost him a few weeks ago. Everybody knows, well, probably there are some people probably that don't know. He's the voice of Darth Vader and voice of Mufasa. So he's just a brilliant actor, one of the legends. So shout out to him, just a great legend. So R.I.P. to the voice of Darth Vader and Mufasa, the great James Earl Jones. But yeah, just we doing a Chickens Coming Home to Roost Part 2.
And we can say that he is the greatest voice of all time. We can just go ahead and say that. He is the greatest voice of all time. It ain't nobody that can come. There's some people that's coming up next, and they older too, but he definitely number one. And he was told that he had a speech impediment growing up, and he wasn't going to be able to talk. He's number one, without a doubt.
So I read that Star Wars, they got his permission he did some recordings, and they're going to do his voice through AI.
Yeah.
So he signed off on that. So any future Darth Vader characters will have his voice. They're just going to AI generate it. So
that's wonderful.
They set that up with him.
That's wonderful. So yeah, we're doing the Chickens Coming Home to Roost Part 2. And that was, to me, that was our best show. Chicken Coming Home to Roost Part 1. I don't know why I felt like it was our best show. I just felt like maybe I felt like it was our best show because it literally was just like the stuff that we be talking about over the phone and at home. And it wasn't like a show. It was just, this is what we be saying, what we've been saying. Everything was just, it just flowed off the dome. And that really wasn't even, we didn't plan to call it that or nothing, but we're going to follow that up with Chickens Coming Home to Roost Part 2, because that's what's going on right now. And the fact that's one thing that I like about Cowboy Nation. In the past, we haven't always been on the same page. In the past, it's, people like to blame Jerry. And then I hate when people blame Jerry, because it's just like, you're just ignoring the fact that as a father and son duo, he has Steven in control of things. I don't understand how people can hear that he wanted to draft Johnny Manziel and they had to put him up against the wall and push him up against the wall, and they had a big falling out over drafting Zach Martin or whoever it was, Travis Frederick, over Johnny Manziel. That tells you right there that Jerry doesn't run everything by himself. That does not happen. And then, so you have some people blaming Jerry, you have some people blaming Steven, and you have some fans blaming the quarterback, some fans blaming the players, and it's just everyone's been all over the place. But lately, we all know what the issue is. Everybody's on the same page, and so that's what I like about it, is that we're all on the same page, and then you see what happened. Everyone is on the same page, and they're coming right at the person who they need to come at, and you see what's happening. Jerry is lashing out like a cat in the corner. Because it's the chickens are coming home to roost. It's just that clear. So I have a lot of points that I can bring up. So you might want to go ahead and talk about some stuff, because I got a lot of stuff to say about that.
So yeah, the Spider-Man meme continues. The chickens coming home, and so I listened to the content creators, new media is what it's called, and you got the new media and the legacy media. The legacy media is all of the people that cover the team on you can call it the corporate side, I guess, but so with new media, you can pretty much just kind of do whatever you need to do under no threats. But I
Yeah.
watched Skywalker Steel and Vlad. Shout out to them. And you touched on something the other night that I thought was really on point when you said that Jerry and Steven, they're kind of under the impression that people in this area that cover the team or people that cover the team are not knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And, Cowboy fans are very knowledgeable in terms of, what happens on the field or schemes. So what Sky and Vacha did today, well, they've actually done 2 shows, and they just broke down the offense. And, it's really cool the way content creators, the content creators are not making millions of dollars. They're not coaches, but it's really interesting to see that it's not rocket science to see what's going on. The way they broke it down with the play schemes, the routes, the way that McCarthy's approaching the game. And of course, you had Troy Aikman come out today talking about the receivers, the way they run routes. So the thing that's really frustrating for Cowboy fans is that, this is Dallas. I'm a 3rd generation Cowboy fan. You're a 4th generation. And in between, you got a lot of people that know what they're talking about. And when you got content creators pointing out that your offense is basically in the Stone Age, Jerry, Steven, McCarthy, they just have to understand that, everything is out in the open. If you're not really doing a good job, I mean, it's just no way to hide, because you got the print media, the legacy media. Now you've got content creators who, they bring in things to the forefront as well. So, look, it's basically all coming to a head with the way, and it's really both sides. It's not just Jerry and Steven. It is McCarthy. It's the line coach, Mike Solari. They brought up a point today that I didn't even know. They said the running backs coach, Jeff Blasco, whatever his name is, they said that he never played running back on any level. They said that he's never coached running backs, but he's a friend of Mike McCarthy. So again, it's just like, what is going on here? And then of course, Mike Solari, offensive line coach, he's 80 years old. And, no disrespect to older people, but Father Time is undefeated. He should be somewhere just kicking back, enjoying life. If you had Mike Solari as a consultant, something like that, that would be terrific. But he shouldn't be the O-line coach at this point. I mean, but again, another friend of Mike McCarthy. So you go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, and that's what that's another thing that I like to point out with them too. It's a lot of I call it nepotism. Now nepotism, I think, is just when you hire family members or whatever, but it's that whole concept that they go with. It's just like bringing in Mike Nolan. It's just like it's just like that's one of your buddies. But what you're seeing now is, and I mean, and this is what sucks about it, and it's always an out, because you can always stop what you're doing, change what you're doing, and rebound and turn your franchise around. You see it done all the time. Houston did it with the whole Deshaun Watson thing. The Jets have done it. You can see Washington is doing it.
Detroit, Chicago.
It happens all the time. And these teams, you would think that they would never ever be able to come back from such a disastrous, whatever they have happened, but they all do, because it's not a foolproof system. You can change your ways and come back. So what you're seeing is, so I said all that to say, to prefix before I say this, to let you know it's not the end of the world. You can change, but this is what's happening. So, and we can do the blame game, but Jerry and Steven. Okay, so Jerry lets Steven hire McCarthy. That's what we believe. He hires McCarthy. He interviews old people. Steven does. He interviews old coaches. No disrespect to older people, but he does this skins on the wall crap when the analytics tells you that there has been no coach that has won a Super Bowl with one team and then became the head coach of another team and won it again. That hasn't happened yet. Is that right?
Say that again.
So there has not been a head coach that has won a Super Bowl with two teams. Not a head coach.
I have to think about that. And I want to just kind of don't lose your train of thought. I think the hiring old people part, I think that's like a Jerry thing. I don't know if it's just Steven.
Could be. So it's a Jerry thing. Let's just say it's a Jerry thing.
And
but
he doesn't want to hire anybody from college for sure.
That's for sure.
And the young coordinators that we know that are up and coming, he has tended to stay away from that. So like the Ben Johnsons, the Bob Slowicks, the McVays,
the guy that went to USC.
So the McVays, the Shanahan tree. So those coaches, the up and coming innovative coaches, for the most part, he's just kind of not interested in that. He hasn't been. He likes to sink the more, like I say, like a guy like McCarthy that's won a Super Bowl, even though it was 2011. 13 years ago.
The historical narrative of it, the whole, this guy is.
And in the case of McCarthy, he was impressed with McCarthy because McCarthy knocked us out of the Super Bowl, not out of the playoffs a couple of times.
Correct. They kept doing it, and they keep doing it. They did it last year. So, which is why this is probably going to be his last year. But my thing is, so they do this to where they hire where they interview Ron Rivera, Marvin Lewis, the Rooney Rule, Mike McCarthy. Who else should I throw in there? The older. These are the people that they interview now. This is public knowledge. So this is the thing that Jerry can't say that we don't know. This is public knowledge. We know who they're interviewing.
But when they hired McCarthy, they didn't really interview anyone else. They didn't even interview Ron Rivera. They did that this last go round for the defensive coordinator.
What was the guy? Rex Ryan.
That was this past time for the coordinator on defense.
So this is what they're doing. Okay, they're interviewing. They're not. See, what I would do is, or what you should do is like what Brian Broaddus said. Shout out to Brian Broaddus. And you would go get every college. Every offensive coordinator, head coach that's moving the ball from point A to point B, and you get a list of 20 of them. Weed them out, and you interview them, and then whoever wins the job based off of the interview skills. That's what corporations do. Corporations don't put positions out there and say, hey, we need somebody to fill this position. We're only going to interview one person. We know it doesn't. No. What they do is they interview multiple people. But anyways, to keep going on. So the Cowboys, another thing that's happening is the players, the millennials and the Gen Zs, this is a whole different ball game now. This is not the 1990s. This is not the 2000s. This is not to where how much money you make is determined by the team that you play for. That saying you're a Cowboy so you can take a discount, or you're a Cowboy so you can do it. It doesn't work like that no more. So these players are not necessarily, they don't really like Micah. Micah is on podcasts, joking around, talking to other NFL players about what's going on. He don't have no care in the world about what Jerry Jones thinks at all. He does not care. And he said it himself when he said, how you going to expect me to make big plays when you got me going up against their best two linemen on their team every play?
Understand, not to cut you off, but understand this too. Micah, CD, Dak, those guys, and then Dak is on the back nine. They don't really care nothing about what Jerry is saying either.
They don't care at all. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you another thing. They don't care what Mike McCarthy's saying either. So
I think they do. We talked about this the other night. I don't think the players will quote unquote quit on Mike McCarthy. They generally like McCarthy. They really do, and they want to play for McCarthy.
Well, let me ask you this. If you know that you're going to be here for the foreseeable future, but your coach, you know that they have not committed to him. Now, this is your coach now. So, if you know that this guy's not going to be there, or if you have that in your mind frame, even if it is there, you can love him and want to play for him and all of that. But at the back of your mind, it's just kind of like Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. Russell Wilson didn't go off on Sean Payton on that sideline because he knew that, like, listen, man, I'm not gonna be here next year or whatever, so it ain't no big deal. I ain't gotta listen to what you talking about. It's not even worth my time. But if that whole narrative of like, I don't really gotta, like let's just say Mike McCarthy did try to choose CD out for running routes. CD, could easily come back and be disrespectful and be like, well, your offense is outdated, which is why you're not going to be here next year. So go move around. So it's but nevertheless, I'm kind of getting off a track. But my whole thing is my big thing is what I wanted to put out here is that when you look at the Dallas Cowboys roster, and we got to start listening to Jerry and Steven and believing what they say, because they do say what they feel and they mean what they say. And even though it's outrageously, even so some of the stuff they say is outrageous. Like when they say, we like our guys, you got to listen to that. Because when you look at the roster, we can pull up the Dallas Cowboys roster right now, which I'm going to do here in a second. If you pull up the Dallas Cowboys roster, every single player on this roster except 3 or 4 was drafted here by the Cowboys, or they came here like off of the Cowboys practice squad, or they was like unsigned free agents or something. The only free agents that we have on this team that came from somewhere else, that was drafted somewhere else, is Brandon Cooks. He's not playing right now. He's on IR. Kendricks, he's not playing right now. He was hurt. So you got Brandon Cooks and you got Kendricks, and then you have 2 more. You have who else is it that you have Linval Joseph. He came here with Zim. He wasn't drafted here. He just came here. He was an old man sitting at home. He's an older player sitting at home. They got him off the couch, got him off the street. And then who is Malik Hooker? Malik Hooker is the reason why the Cowboys are looking for are going to be drafting safety in the next year's draft, or Bell or Wanye is going to be playing, because he's not playing good. But those are the 4 players on this roster right now that I can think of off the top of my head that starts for the Cowboys, and I just named 4 of them, and 2 of them are not even playing. So that means that the other 2, which would be Linval Joseph and Malik Hooker, are on this roster playing right now. That what that means, Cowboy Nation, is that every single player that you draft or that's on our team has been drafted. Now, if they wasn't CD, if they're not CD, Dak, Micah, Trayvon Diggs, those are the hits. Deron Bland, he's not playing right now. Those are the hits that I'm naming. These are the all pro players. These are the all pro players. Now I just named 4. I can go on some more. But you got Zach Martin in there. You got Tyler Smith in there. Now I'm at 6. Now y'all know how many players is on an NFL team now. So out of all of the players that's been drafted, I just named 6 that are like superstars at their position. They would start on any other team in the NFL no matter what. Now, that means that all of the other players, they're not that good. That's what that means. And then don't forget, if you're going to build your roster that way, if you're going to say that we're going to play, we're going to draft and develop, that means that you have to hit big in the draft every time. That's what that means. And when you have a draft like you did last year and the year before, what that means is that you can just count how many rounds it is in the draft. Let's just count. Let's just say it's 7 or 8 rounds in the draft. That's 7 plus 7. That's 14 players that you have on your roster that plays snaps, because because you are developed and you are a draft and develop team. So these last 2 years, you drafted Mozzie in the first round. You drafted Schoon in the second round. And after that, I don't even want to go. The Overshawn is the one. So that means that out of the last 2 years drafts, what players do we have that are contributing to this roster, contributing to this team in a positive way. So you have to look at Will McClay. You can't say Will McClay is a good guy. I mean, is drafting good? He's not. Because if he was, you wouldn't be in a losing franchise because you're a draft and develop team. So either the players that you're drafting aren't good or the coaching is not good. And what we're suffering from is both. Neither one of them is good. So when these things happen like this in a row, you draft, you hire bad coaches. And then we're not even talking about the economics, about how they pay players late, how they pay the wrong players. They literally let Amari Cooper go and sign Gallup because Gallup was drafted here and Amari Cooper wasn't. That tells you everything you need to know. Amari Cooper would have taken the same contract as Michael Gallup. There was no logical reason for them to trade him for what they traded him for, which he got traded years later, last week. I mean, a couple of days ago, for more than they got back for him when they traded him to Cleveland, which is just unbelievable. It only happens to us. So the general manager part of the team, which is what Jerry is being asked about, he don't want to answer those questions because it hurt. The truth hurts when somebody points out your mistakes and your flaws that you have been blatantly irresponsible about and doubling down and tripling down on. When somebody tells you, hey, that's not what the reason why this team is in disarray is because of you, then that hurts. So this needs to happen, Cowboy Nation. In order for there to be change, there has to be total destruction. You cannot. Let's just say you want to build a new house, but you have an old rotten house and you have a poor foundation. Everything needs to go. It might be better in the long run to just knock that whole house down and start over. And that's what you're seeing right now. That's what's happening. And they're being forced into doing this because their plan has failed. It has ran out. The draft and develop scheme is a failure. The way their hiring practices it's a failure. The everything that they've done, we can point at. This is the year 2024. We have analytics. We can look and say the reason why this is happening is because this is happening, or the reason why this has happened is because this didn't happen. The reason why we are not a good football team is because they stick to draft and development, and they don't draft good. The picks that they hit on are surefire picks like CeeDee Lamb and Micah, and that's just not good enough. You have to draft. You have to hit on players. Like I said last draft, we do this thing where we look at every year. We look at the top 100 players, like on Tankathon, and we do draft. Me personally, when the draft come around, I do mock drafts. I probably do 5 mock drafts a day. And so when I do 5 mock drafts a day, and then you come out here and you pick Mozzie and Schoon, I know that those are horrible picks. I know that. When you pick Tyler Guyton, I know that it was players out there that was better than that. I know this. It's not a guessing game. This is not something that we don't know. So, Jerry, you can try to belittle us, but it doesn't really work that way. We know. We know what's going on. So, and then this is how you could tell. This is the last thing I'm gonna say. This is how you can tell that they don't draft good and that Will McClay is not a good scout or whatever you want to call him. He's not. And the reason why he's not is because their draft board got leaked 2 years ago. And it was really their draft board. And I showed it on the first episode of this, of Generation to Generation Cowboys and Sports Talk. I showed it. They didn't have Mozzie Smith as a first round pick. They didn't have Schoonmaker as a second round pick. They had Mozzie as a fringe second round pick, and they had Schoon as a 4th round pick. So how in the hell Did they get drafted where they got drafted at? If that was the case, because they don't draft good. They don't draft good. That's the answer. And the chickens are coming home to roost. All of these things are piling up together, and this is what you see. They told Jerry. Jerry said, "Well, I thought we was going to be able to move the ball against them. You thought we was going to be able to move the ball against Detroit. That mean that if you thought that, somebody told you that." See, that's the only difference between Jerry Jones as being the general manager and the rest of these guys. He's the only one that he's going and sitting in. I mean, I'll say that's the only difference between him being an owner and a general manager is he's going in to the head coach meetings. He's going into the offensive meetings. So McCarthy told him that they were going to be able to move the ball. We just watched Seattle move the ball on them. We're talking about Geno Smith. So we watched them do that. So how can Seattle move the ball on them, but we can't? So he told Jerry that they was going to be able to move the ball. We couldn't move the ball. So there you go, Jerry. That's it. That's it. That's your answer. That's the offense is outdated. There is no mystery. Anytime about they saving Zeke, it's not gonna be nothing to save Zeke for. That's not true, Jerry. You're just making that up, because if that's true, then you are really a psycho. It's just, what reason did they have not to bring Henry in here? The thing I can see is because Zeke was drafted here, and they still paying him. So the whole draft and development thing is just, it's chickens are coming home to roost. The way that they hire, chickens are coming home to roost. The way that they pay their players, chickens are coming home to roost. You still fighting things that you did 4 years ago. Simple as that. You still fighting the fact that you drafted somebody, Taco or whoever, over TJ Watt. You still fighting the fact that you let Coop go and sign Gallup. You're still dealing with that. You can change it all overnight, but I don't know. That's my whole thing, and I feel like we haven't had a good draft in probably, I don't know how long. I don't know.
Well, this, the Micah draft and the CD draft has held them over, and they've had some, different hits. What I said is that they're not great at drafting. They're not bad at drafting. They're kind of in the middle. I would just say, they're good. They're not great. They're not bad, and that kind of goes up and down as well.
I'm gonna just keep your train of thought. I'm gonna interrupt just for a second. You're saying that they're good, they're average at drafting, but here's the thing with that. It's a flip side. That's your saying, and I've adapted it. It's a flip side to every coin. The flip side to that coin is, if you're going to be a team that only utilizes the draft, you cannot be average and you cannot be good. That's the thing. If you're going to only utilize your draft, then you can't be good. You have to be great. You have to be excellent.
That's the chicken that's coming back on you to roost. So what they got away with is they really try to paint themselves as, dabbling in free agency and making trades is just not a good way to run a franchise. But where they're wrong is, when you look at franchises like, I call them conservative franchises: Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo. I would even say the 49ers are pretty conservative. What the Cowboys are missing is that those teams, they don't go out and spend millions and millions of dollars on free agency. They just don't. That's just a misnomer. They don't do a lot of trades. What they do is they draft. If they have a good draft, they have a great draft. But what they also do is they do smart trades. They do smart free agent signings. They do a signing here and there. They do a trade here and there. That's what they do. Dallas, on the other hand, they're just draft and develop And that's it. And they talk about it all the time. And they talk about the cap, and they talking about draft and develop. We like our guys. And so from an analytics standpoint, it's still just stunning that no one has came in and just told them, hey, all you need to do is like tweak this little thing over here and just make this adjustment here. And it would absolutely, turn things around. But, I think we talked about the circling firing squad the other night. That's what's happening now. It's a Spider-Man meme. What's happening is they're all pointing the finger at each other. They're pointing the finger at the radio host like they did the other day. And I think, what you're seeing is that I think they understand. Jerry does. I think Jerry is looking at himself and saying that he really kind of got snookered into this whole thing. I believe Jerry, if he had it his way, he would be doing some free agency. He would be doing some trades because that's what he likes to do. So, I think that he's probably mad at himself because he allowed Steven to just kind of say, hey, we're not going to do free agency. We're not going to do trades. And I also think Steven is probably second guessing himself right now. And the thing that's really interesting is, and we want to talk about it, is we only played 6 games. We're 3-3. I'm telling you right now, the team that's going to win this division is going to be 10-7. Now, it could easily be 9-8. So they're not out of it. They still have a chance to do some things this year. They could get a couple of players. I think they still need to play some guys that they have, and it would help. And they fighting that as well. So yeah, it's all the last couple of days. People still talking about what happened. Was that Monday when he called into the show?
Yeah, it was Monday, and I want everybody to pay attention to the striking contrast between Jerry's interview and Steven's interview.
I haven't heard Steven at all. So what has Steven been saying like this week? What did he say on his? Did he do one interview?
He did one.
What did he say? What was his tone?
His tone was normal Steven. You know what his tone reminded me of?
He wasn't attacking the host, but they probably wasn't really saying a whole lot either.
No, they wasn't. They had got a load of they had got chewed out earlier. So for one, they wasn't saying nothing. But number two, Steven was just like, don't worry about it, guys. We gonna be all right. And this is just the way that this is just
What did he say about Jerry and the way Jerry came at those guys? Did he even address it?
No, he didn't. And like I said, he ain't gonna say nothing about that because he getting cussed out at home. So
by Jerry, you think?
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. He ain't
getting cussed out,
man. Listen, he getting charged up and chewed out. And he on do not disturb right now because he's trying to figure it out. You know what? The vibe it gave me when Steven was talking, it was like Steven gave me the vibe of like he know what everybody want to talk about, but he had something else going on like in the background. Like he was just like, yeah, I know, man, but like, yeah, we gotta just wait and see. Like, I'm gonna be there.
What was going on in the background?
Like, it just felt like he wasn't like he was just like, listen. To me, it felt like when I say I'm just using that as a theory, like I'm not saying it was something physically going on in the background, but I'm just saying his mind, that's where his mind was at. His mind wasn't even on what they was talking about. He could care less.
Now we gonna find out. It's all gonna come out in the end. I still think that McCarthy is his guy and McCarthy is not Jerry's guy. I think Jerry absolutely wanted to hire Dan Quinn as the next head coach. Mm-hmm. And I think that Jerry's is sort of like, okay, you got to win with less. This is the team that we have. And by the way, if you're a great coach, you can take the roster that we have and figure it out. I believe that's what Jerry's standing on. He really believes that they have good enough team. I think he just believes McCarthy is not doing a good job coaching. Now, on the other hand, the other side of the coin, McCarthy is not doing a good job, and that's what Vach and Will Steele illustrated today. And they're not the first. Look, there are all kinds of people that's covering this team. Brian Broaddus, he got a ring. Bobby Belt, Will Steele, Vach. These guys know their stuff. you brought out some stuff yourself. So it's really not that hard to say that McCarthy is not doing a job with the people that he have. So again, it's a circular firing squad. It's Jerry, it's Steven, it's absolutely McCarthy, it's Solari.
Yeah.
But so they all in it together. But at the end of the day, I think what's going to happen is they're going to just again, the thing that's crazy is we're at game 6. We're not talking about we're at game 12 or 13. You got 11 more games to play. And how many games do the Commanders have on us? Is it 1?
Yeah.
And check this out. This is a crazy thing too. We playing the 49ers next week. They think they 3-3. So the loser of this game is going to be in more trouble. So again, it's going to put the attention back on Dallas and San Fran. And look, I'm telling you this right now. If the Cowboys don't come in this game and do something better offensively and don't have a clue defensively, I've always said that I don't think McCarthy will get fired during the season, but he's getting pretty close, especially if we get smoked by the 49ers. And I'm telling you also that the players are not looking to quit on McCarthy. They're gonna go out there and they're gonna play hard. But what I will say is that he better have some better design plays. He better have a better game plan. Because if he come out there with some crap, CD and Dak, they're gonna be the ones that'll get him fired. Because CD and Dak, they done got paid. Okay.
Yep.
So these guys ain't trying to, they still trying to make, the top 100. They still trying to make all pro and Pro Bowls. These guys, and at the end of the day, both guys, these guys are competitive.
Hey.
So
McCarthy better be glad Micah's not an offensive player.
And Micah will probably play in that game. So no, it's look here. McCarthy, he's trust me, he knows what's finna go down. And so
one of my sayings is sometimes it's just like everybody always say it's chess, it's not checkers. Well, my saying is it's checkers, it's not chess. Sometimes things are what they are and they're very simple, but you can tend to make them difficult. So sometimes it's checkers, it's not chess. So it's literally in this situation, it's a lot of that. It's checkers, it's not chess, Jerry. You don't hire old, outdated people. That's checkers. You don't do that.
You don't hire an outdated guy that his playbook is checkers and the people he going up against they playing chess.
You don't do that. And then it's just like with Derrick Henry and Zeke. It's checkers, it's not chess. One is better than the other, Jerry. Don't try to make it difficult. You just
But that's the problem. Mike McCarthy probably wanted Derrick Henry.
He did.
They didn't want to sign him.
Correct. So it's just
like Dan Quinn wanted Bobby Wagner all those years.
They didn't want to sign him.
They wouldn't sign. So that's the rubber meeting the road. That's a chicken. That's the chicken coming home. But they the owners of the team. They ain't going nowhere.
No.
Yeah, I really think that what's happening right now, they really are feeling it. And
well, we hope they are, because if they are, then a mature or logical person would change.
Yeah.
But we don't know what's going on. It takes a lot to admit when you're wrong. Like Jerry said, I'll take a look at that at the end of the season. Well, no, you need to take a look at that now, because that's what's happening. It's not. Sometimes it's not apples and oranges, it's apples and apples. You're supposed to do this, and if you don't, this is what happens. You can't just be a draft team and draft and develop team, and then you don't draft good and expect to win. It doesn't work that way.
I think also this is going to be a challenge because, we had a couple of players that they could have traded for. I'm not really up on all who's available, but I don't know any well-known name players at this point. The two top players they could have traded for was Amari Cooper and Devontae Adams.
Yeah, you can't say that it was because of contract, because the way that the Cleveland did Amari Cooper's contract, it was easy to do. It was we can see, Jerry. We can see what the salary cap is, and we know we can calculate.
Well, I told you, Buffalo, they're conservative. They don't make a lot of trades. They don't sign a lot of free agents, but they made a smart trade to get Amari Cooper. That was a heck of a deal. And for the Jets, I mean, I don't think the Jets are going anywhere, but that was a smart trade for them. Now, what I noticed about the Devontae Adams trade is they getting his $18 million, so that's a lot of cap. But it is what it is. You're the Jets. I mean, you're trying to win some games, and you're trying to get somebody to watch your game. So, and but yeah, that's just.
It's no excuse for us to have a roster and only have one contributing player from week to week that has not been drafted here.
Hey, I want to look at something, so I pull this up. So, and then we gotta talk about solutions on what we're gonna do for the rest of the season to start that, and then we can talk about it tomorrow. Okay, check this out. One of the things that I've been hearing for the last 20-some years is they value their draft picks. That's one of the reasons why they don't do free agency, they don't do trades. They value their picks like no other team does. And by the way, every NFL team values their picks. That's not just a Dallas thing. But so I pulled this up. So check this out. Now last year's draft, Tyler Guyton was questionable. A lot of people was talking about him having to move from the right to the left. Marshawn Nealon is hurt, and Marshawn Nealon looked okay. He wasn't like great. Cooper Beebe, we still think he's going to be great. He's playing a new position. Maris Larafal. I'm gonna just be honest. I see him on the field just doing a lot of running around. He kind of, makes a play here and there, but I mean, we don't really know. Kalen Carson, he looked good in a couple of games. I think Flournoy has a chance to really be better but think with him, they just won't let him play. If Jimmy Johnson was a coach, Flournoy would be. I didn't know that he was 6'3". How did I miss that?
I don't know. He's 6'3",
and he's faster than Brooks. He's faster than Tolbert. So how is he 6'3"? He's faster than them. But we're going into game 7. It's just they just do crazy stuff.
Dude, we going in week 7 and he has not. He has touched the ball once.
And after that fumble, they should have put him right back in the game and threw to him. That's what good coaches do. Okay, now this 23 draft, boy, Mozzie Smith, Luke Schoonmaker, we know what Overshawn is. Fehoko is not even on the team. Awesome Richards, he's playing guard. They really want him to play tackle. He's making it known that he don't want to play tackle. So he thinks he has a choice.
Listen. That's another thing that the Cowboys do. Why do they draft? Why do they draft free safeties and try to make them play quarterback?
Okay, Eric Scott's not on the team. Jalen Brooks, I've never been impressed with Deuce Vaughn. The year before that, Sam Williams, he's hurt. Tolbert, he's playing okay. I still say Tolbert on a good team, he's a 3rd or 4th receiver. Okay. Matt Waletzko, horrible. Bland, all pro. Damone Clark, I had 4 content creators. Big Time Show. Have you ever heard of Landon Holyfield? It's called the Lando Show. He's a content creator.
Yeah, Lando.
He wanted Damone Clark off the team.
Oh man, they got this. I forgot. I don't know who it was. I got to go find it. Somebody did a Detroit Lions show on Damone Clark. Horrible.
Okay, the 21 draft, Kelvin Joseph.
Oh man.
Odiggy Zua, we know. Chauncey Golston is average. Okay.
He's not even average.
Nashawn Wright, I don't even know if he's in the league. Jabril Cox. Josh Ball shouldn't be on the team right now.
I don't think he is he?
Josh Ball is on the team. Quentin Bohanna, Israel McQuamo, Matt Forniak. Who is that? What did he play?
He was a lineman.
Okay.
Or was he? Yeah, Forniak was a lineman, or yeah.
So the year before that, you got CD, you got Diggs, Neville Gallimore is not on the team anymore. Tyler Biadasz, who was average. Bradley Anai.
Remember Bradley Anai? They came out. He was a linebacker. He was a 3-4 linebacker. He played off the edge.
He never played. Year before that, Tristan Hill, McGovern is starting for Buffalo, looking actually pretty good. Pollard, Michael Jackson is still in the league. Donovan Wilson was your 6th round pick. And then we're going to stop right here. 2018, LVE, Connor Williams, Michael Gallup, Dorrance Armstrong, Dalton Schultz. That was pretty decent draft. Cedric Wilson was the 6th round. So anyway, make a long story short, I said all of it to say this. There have been so many opportunities for them to just say, instead of Kelvin Joseph, give me Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith was traded for a 3rd round pick. You talking about Michael Jackson, 5th round
Michael Jackson.
pick.
Who is Michael Jackson?
He ended up going to the 49ers, and I think he played last year. Neville Gallimore, 3rd round pick. Semi Fehoko, 5th round pick. Josh Ball, Jabril Cox, Nashawn Wright. All of these names, just look at these names. Connor Williams, Bradley Anas, the Fehoko that we took at the draft a couple of years ago, 21, 23.
Bellimi
Fehoko. These guys, we're talking about rounds 2 through 5, and they value their picks. Just take those names that I just gave you and just do a trade. So you could have had Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith was traded for a 3rd round pick. Baltimore made that trade. Baltimore doesn't do a lot of trades. They're conservative. But they took a 3rd round pick and got Roquan Smith. That should have been Dallas. And we needed a linebacker. But the reason that we didn't want to do that is because what you were saying earlier, they had LVE. They kept LVE 3 years too long because he was a guy they drafted and they liked his salary. They were paying him veteran minimum. But you could have had Roquan Smith. So just look at all of the small trades that are being made that are not being made in Dallas because they value their picks. You're valuing the Matt Walesko's, Asim Richards, Kalen Carson, Eric Scott. These are the players that you're deciding to keep on your team and you're valuing when you can take just some of those players and you can make a trade here and there. And that's what Baltimore doing. That's what Kansas City is doing.
But then you name these people. All of these players are not even in the league anymore, are not even on our team anymore. But yet they want to say that they draft and develop players, and then they say that they're good at it.
But they overvalue the draft. That's what Jeff Kavanaugh. Shout out to Jeff. He says that all the time. They overvalue the draft. But see what's happening now. It's all coming to a head. All these players that we're naming, they are pretty much putting us where we are. And then another thing that we're not talking about is we're talking about all the bad contracts, the Michael Gallup contract, Zeke contract,
Jalen Smith, LVE.
That's never covered. So they don't talk about that. Now, Sean and RJ, they brought up some concerns that they had, and he went off the deep end. Nobody's talked to him about some of these contracts, and Steven talks about the cap all the time, but they don't ever talk about you're impacting the cap with the contract for Gallup. You signed Gallup to a contract after he tore his ACL.
You did the same thing with Terrence Steele. That's not paying out.
And then they absolutely don't talk about the Trey Lance trade. So you traded a 4th round pick for Trey Lance. You're paying him millions of dollars. He's your third team quarterback. And you could have just taken that pick. You value picks. That's when you should have kept your pick if you value him so much.
Braylon Allen.
Yeah, you had, and then just looking at some of the picks. But look, here's the thing. Like I said, it's game 6.
That's a good segue because we got a request from our cousin K-Rock. He wanted to hear our opinion, and shout out to him. He wanted to know what is our best case scenario for the rest of the season. That's the question.
Well, the best case scenario is that your coaches make some adjustments that they can make. They start playing some of the players that can make an impact, and they just coach and play better, and that can absolutely happen. I mean, it ain't like I said, our division. Nobody is afraid of the Eagles. Nobody. I think Washington is going to come back down to earth. Their defense is not that good, and Dan Quinn he's getting a lot of hype because he's firing the team up, and that all looks great. But they are not. We're not talking about like a juggernaut. Their quarterback he's balling, but
Yeah.
like I tell people all the time, it's two sides of the ball. They do have to play defense, and
Right.
they can be beat. So they're not as good as the Lions. I think in the NFC, to me right now, the Lions are far and above everybody else. Everybody else is just we're playing a team in next week that's 3-3. So to answer nephew question, look, I've been watching content creators the last couple of days. If they was coaching the team, we could win some games. That's just how easy the adjustments are that he can make.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to also say this too. Now, I agree with everything you just said. I think that the number one thing that has to happen is McCarthy needs to go. Whatever happened after the bye last year needs to happen again this year.
He just started using motion.
He started using motion. We can keep it that simple. He needs to start using motion, and then he also, like you said, he needs to start using motion, but he also needs to play the checkers. He needs to play Flournoy. That has to happen. He needs to play Hunter Lupke and Turpin down the field. That has to happen. Hunter Lupke needs to play. Needs to back up. What's his name? They have to do that. He has to play.
They need to bring Dalvin Cook up and at least try.
They have to bring Dalvin Cook up. They have to. You have to bring Dalvin Cook up.
And let me say this about Dalvin Cook. We don't know what he's going to do, but what we do know, you have to try. He's on the team. So a lot of these things that we're talking about, we don't know what's going to happen. John Stevens needs to be on the active roster playing.
I would go get Leonard Fournette. I seen Shaq. Shaq interviewed Leonard Fournette, and Shaq was like calling out Jerry Jones, saying, "Hey, Mr. Jones, this is your guy right here." And Leonard Fournette is like, "Yeah, I'm right here. I'm ready."
I wouldn't be opposed to that. I want to see Dalvin Cook first.
Yeah,
but then you also gotta get some things resolved on the offensive line, because there are some issues there. Yeah. If Zach Martin is not healthy, just sit him for a couple of games.
Yeah, just sit him for a couple of games. What can you lose at this point?
You just play with what's the two linemen that come in every now and then. When they come in, they play pretty good. One of them played last week. He
didn't play good. The other one, when they played, both of them played. One of them didn't play good.
We won. You talking against the Steelers? We won the game.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So everybody know who we talking about. And this is another thing I want to point out too. The season is not over, guys. We 3-3, but absolutely, best case scenario, they change the offense around and start putting up some points. And stop kicking 85-yard field goals. And only when you need to. You got to look at the schedule. Okay. Now, we got the Falcons. Now, as bad as we playing, the Falcons, we about the same. We can beat them. So, listen, you got San Francisco. They 3-3. They just as they in the same. They got the same kind of problems that we do right now. So that's a winnable game.
And you got to remember, while you're looking at that, you got to remember too that Micah's coming back, Bland's coming back. At some point, Brandon Cooks is going to play.
Right. So yeah, check it out. That's because that goes right into what I was saying. So you got the Texans. I mean, you got the Eagles. You got the Texans. You got Washington. You got the Giants. You got the Bengals. You got Carolina. You got Tampa. And then you finish with the Eagles and Washington. All of those games are winnable games.
We played Washington at home, right? The last game?
No, we played them at home in the last game. So all of those games are winnable games with a little bit of tweaking. That's it. So I mean, it is a flip side to this coin. yeah, we getting beat down at the beginning of the season, but it's also exposing a lot of things, and we have the ability to make changes as the this is the hardest part of the schedule that we're going through. And and so far, we played the Steelers and we lost. We lost to Detroit. Okay, we got beat down by Detroit. But we got San Francisco and the Falcons and the Texans. We got the Eagles, but that's gonna be a good game. We got the Texans after that. So
Well, they all gonna be hard games.
they all gonna be hard games, but
You
we
can
didn't
win. You
play.
can win.
In my opinion, we didn't play the best teams we gonna play. We're not gonna play another Detroit. We're not gonna play another Baltimore. So
What you got to be concerned about, what you are gonna play, you're gonna play teams that the game to them is a rivalry game.
mhm.
They're gonna come in and they're gonna be ready, fired up, and ready to go.
I like how you just did that. Whatever you did, it made it come closer. That was cool.
So how you make it go back?
I would say, yeah, go like that. Oh no, that didn't work.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But yeah, so that's the thing you got to watch out for, is that a lot of these teams that we're playing, it's gonna be a big game to them.
It's
And
gonna be a big game with them.
And Mike McCarthy, he hasn't done well in those kind of games. The game that he really met the moment was at Pittsburgh, but he ain't really done a good job in those games.
In those 3 years, he just hasn't had that. But see, we are Cowboy fanatics. We are Cowboy fans. A lot of Cowboys fans. We have a lot of passion as fans. Mike McCarthy hasn't had that passion that we've had the whole 3 years that he was here.
That's part of the problem.
It's part of the problem. He doesn't bleed blue. He probably.
And Zim, the thing that's kind of scary about Zim is Zim is looking old, which,
Yeah.
by the way, that's one of the concerns I have about Belichick. I just don't. My concern with Belichick is if we end up hiring him long term, with these older coaches, you just don't know what you're gonna get. Now, I think Bill Belichick, he's such a master of the game. He could come in and do like Parcells did when he came in here. Parcells did change the culture. He knew personnel. He knew the schemes of the game. Belichick is still gonna have that.
But like I told Uncle Keith, shout out to Uncle Keith. What I was telling him is Bill Belichick is probably the best coach that ever coached. Right?
And here's the thing about Bill Belichick that's I think it's kind of odd. You got people saying that he wouldn't have won Super Bowls without Tom Brady, and I'm like, to me, it's like the chicken and egg thing. A lot of them teams that they had, they were not like great teams. They didn't have like a lot of the teams that they won championships with. They never really had the best talent. They had the best quarterback, which is big, but I don't understand how people don't give Bill Belichick credit for winning those championships. There was a lot of stuff that he did that really made that happen. They won a Super Bowl. Deion Branch was their number one receiver. Deion Branch was probably 5'9", maybe.
Man,
he was the MVP of the game.
See,
so
K-Rock gonna roll his eyes at this because this is our argument.
He think it's all Brady.
He think it's all quarterback everywhere. Any and everything. The Patrick Mahomes is the greatest. It's not Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
Now, when people say that Patrick Mahomes would win without Andy Reid,
no.
Man, Bill Belichick and Andy Reid are like brilliant coaches.
They are, and if you was to put Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes on our team, they would not have 7 championships.
Here's the argument that you can make with nephew K-Rock. Tell him, I'm gonna make Jason Garrett the coach of Dallas for 10 years, and I'm gonna give you Tom Brady. How many championships would Jason Garrett have won with Tom Brady?
There you go. Yeah, you answer that question for us.
He wouldn't even made it to a Super Bowl.
He wouldn't even probably have made it to an NFC championship. So
put Tom Brady with Wade Phillips.
Okay, right. Come on now. What really? So I was arguing with somebody. I wasn't arguing with somebody today, but
it's really both. I mean, Brady and Belichick, they really just worked as a team, because it was times when Brady won and times when Belichick So you can't take things away from Belichick and say it was all Brady. It's really both.
So I was on Mark Holmes' channel earlier today. Shout out to Mark Holmes. And some guy, I had to go off on this guy because he was talking. He went in on Mark
We be
Holmes. So
going off on.
well, I won't say I went off on him, but it's all fair. It's all fun.
Trying to read
but
my camera move. Oh, what happened?
I had to have Mark Holmes back because he was saying that he said, Mark, you hyped the team up all offseason. Look at the title of the videos. Now you're acting like you warned us. We told you signing Dak would be the downfall of this team. But you are trying to deflect from that by making 15 videos about Jerry every day. So somebody said this to Mark Holmes. So I had to tell them. So you mean to tell me that if we had Patrick Mahomes instead of Dak, that would make the owners utilize free agency? So if we had Patrick Mahomes instead of Dak, would that make Mike McCarthy use motion?
No.
If we had Patrick Mahomes instead of Dak, would our defense still give up 52 points, and would they be able to stop the run? I don't think so. So all of these problems are not Dak related problems, and even the interceptions, it's just like.
Well, you got to look at too. We keep talking about Jerry and Stevens hiring practices. A lot of people don't talk about this, but they've done a terrible job at hiring defensive coordinators too.
They see, their whole hiring process is bad. The whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's not about. It's literally not about who they hire. It's about how they go about hiring them.
And we'll go ahead and wrap after this. People focus on the head coach and one side of the ball, but they've also, on the defensive side, they've done a terrible job hiring defensive coordinators. The defensive scheme, they hired Rob Marinelli, and with all due respect, and we respect this, he was Marinelli served in the Vietnam War, I think. But anyway, he was a veteran, so they would always talk about that, and nobody's disrespecting that. But he was 0-16 as a head coach of the Lions. The scheme that he ran was outdated, and people talk about the Sean McVays and the Shanahans, all these great offensive minds that they passed up on. They've done the same thing on the defensive side. The coach they should have been hiring was Steve Spagnuolo, which was he started out with the Eagles. Then he got hired as the Rams head coach, and he didn't work out as a head coach, and then he got hired by Kansas City. When you look at what Brian Flores is doing, I'm gonna tell you somebody that's underrated is he was the head coach of the Lions for several years. The name escapes me at the moment. We just played them, but he's another guy along with the McVays and the Shanahans and all of these people that Jerry just never figured out how to hire. He did the same thing with his defensive coordinator.
Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell?
No, I'm talking about the defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz.
Oh, Jim Schwartz, yeah.
Is another one. That's, so it's a lot of defensive coaches that Jerry missed out on because he just hasn't hired. The biggest chance we had to make it to a championship was 2016. That's what I think. I don't think it was 07. People like that 2014 team, the Dez Catch team. Mm-hmm. That defense was average. It was a little above average. I still think if we had scored, we were not going to stop Aaron Rodgers, not at Lambeau Field and on that last drive. Because Marinelli was a defensive coordinator, and that defense didn't really have any superstars on it. They were just average. But
those are the safety days. The days that he just said
he didn't want to have a safety.
Yeah, safety position just didn't exist.
His best safety was Barry Church, who was undrafted.
Wow.
Barry Church was a good player.
The torpedo.
But the 2016 team, we lost that game to Green Bay at home because of the defense. They started the game out. Aaron Rodgers, he had no fear of playing Marinelli. He had messed up with him so many times, and so we got down in the game 27-28. What did we get down?
It was like 24-7 at half.
Yeah, because of the defense. But nobody talked about it. It was just something that just happened, and then we lost the game because of the defense. He had them playing zone. It was
Mhm.
third and what?
17.
It was more than that. It was like
Yeah,
third
20,
and 20,
20,
20 something.
25. Yeah.
He's playing zone, and the
Mhm.
guy that he had covering one part of the field was Byron
Byron
Jones.
Jones.
It's one of the worst covering people you could ever find.
No, he not. He was one of the best covering people that you could ever find. But remember, he was
No,
playing the wrong
yeah,
position.
he was playing safety.
Right.
So he was playing back. He had a zone that he was covering,
Right.
and what happened was he drifted back,
Yep.
and the tight end ran the play, and he
Right.
drifted. And a matter of fact, he drifted back so far. He drifted out of the zone into what's the other corner that we had? We paid a lot of money.
Brandon Carr.
He drifted back into Brandon Carr's zone. So, but that was Marinelli and Byron Jones. But see, on any other team, if Marinelli had been the coordinator for San Francisco, really anybody after that 2016 game, he would have got fired.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, when we can wrap, what does a general manager do?
A general manager
for NFL?
On most teams, they just evaluate talent. They prepare for the draft. They look at who they're going to draft. They decide who you're going to draft. They look at free agents that you're going to sign. They do what Baltimore is doing, what Kansas City is doing. They look at free agency. So they basically just handle player personnel with the draft and free agency.
This is what it says. It says everything you just said. It says operations, team building, draft preparation, marketing and media, and finances. Those are all of the things that Jerry Jones has the title of doing that he is completely failing at.
Well, I was shaking my head because you said marketing and media. The general manager doesn't do that.
It says it right here. It says the GM may be responsible for the team's marketing and media. And then it says the finances and team spokesperson and legal. But I mean, I'm just saying that to say, the only other general manager that I know, now you probably know him, but I only know the general managers that have been changed here recently. Like, I only know who the general manager of the Texans is. I only know who the general manager of Detroit is. I only know who the general manager of Washington is.
The Eagles.
The Eagles, Howie Roseman. The only reason why I know who these general managers are is because the previous general manager was doing such a bad job that they got fired. And when they got fired, they hired these new guys. And these new guys have been making headway, been making noise. And Howie Roseman been making a lot of noise, and they ain't even got no results from it. They be trading and doing a lot. And they still
Howie Roseman is on the clock. If they don't make the playoffs this year or flame out, his job ain't secure.
Nah, it ain't. But the thing that's my point. Jerry has been holding out the general manager thing for 28 years, and he ain't, and then a lot of people, they general manage as a collective. It's not just Jerry. It's Jerry, Steven, Will McClay, and they're not doing good. They're not. This team needs a general manager. So, like, what's the likelihood of like Troy or somebody like that becoming our general manager?
It's not going to happen. People keep talking about that. I don't understand where that comes from. People got this thing with Troy, like he's entitled. First of all, it's like Troy is entitled to do this. This is a family-run business. Troy is not part of the family, so I don't even know why they would think that. If they're gonna go hire a general manager, they would just hire a real GM, somebody that's been. So I don't get the whole Troy thing, but I think what they should do is just go hire somebody that's with one of the teams that are doing really good. Go hire somebody, an assistant GM for Baltimore, assistant GM for Kansas City, the assistant GM for San Fran. That's the way you would do it. If you were like a professional run organization, you just go to one of those teams and you find somebody that's in that office that's the assistant. That's how we got almost how we got is it Nico or Miko for the Mavericks?
Nico, N-I-K-O.
So that's kind of what happened. So no, you wouldn't go out and hire Troy or Michael Irvin as your GM. That wouldn't make any sense.
Nico was a Nike executive, and that's why he had all those, he had those he had those good big ties to LeBron and
Well, and
Kyrie and all that.
yeah, and what I was going to say about Nico is that he was basically like a quasi general manager because he's been working with these players behind the scenes over the years. So that's his resume.
And that's exactly how we got Kyrie.
Yeah. So you would just go hire somebody off the 49ers, the Rams. Well, probably they probably won't do the Rams, but the Chiefs, Baltimore. If I was going to hire a general manager, I would try to find out who worked with Ozzie Newsome at Baltimore. That would be my number one person. Ozzie Newsome, he's the best in the business as far as that has been for probably the last 15 years or so. He retired.
I would look at college programs too.
Well, that's the Jerry thing. Again, Jerry don't want to. He want to get somebody that. I would hire somebody young off another franchise that's doing it the right way. So we've been on an hour and 14 minutes. You ready to wrap?
Yeah, and so this is the chickens coming home to roost part 2, and so we're gonna do another show about it before.
Well, we'll probably do one Saturday. I don't know.
Yeah, Saturday. We can do one Saturday, and we're gonna be talking about solutions. Now, solutions for the rest of this season, and then we're gonna be talking about solutions going forward, because there is a way, and there are many solutions to this. There has to be. Number one, this is not the end all be all, and there's a flip side to every coin. So there is solutions, and we're going to cover them because it seems like now that we got the attention of Mr. Jones. So hopefully, Cowboy Nation, we have to use our power as a collective, because he talking about, and then we're going to close out. He talking about if they was real fans, he would talk to some real fans. Fam, that's not, you would not talk to real fans. So I don't even know why you said that, but so anyways, so y'all make sure y'all comment, like, and subscribe, and we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Our views are skyrocketing, and we're getting more subscribers. So y'all make sure y'all like the video. Stop what you're doing. If you made it this far in the video, please like it, and please make a comment, and please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. If you made it this far in the video, there's no reason why you can't like it. Come on. Let's just get the likes up. Let's get the likes up. Let's get the views up. Let's get the subscriptions up. So we are almost at 100 subscriptions. Can y'all believe it? We're almost there. So can y'all help us out? Let's get there. And y'all make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll be back with another one in a few days, if not tomorrow. So we'll see y'all. And we appreciate everything y'all do. And peace out.